In this video, we'll do a very brief introduction to the ink control in the UX component. So the ink control is like any other data-bound control. So you can see, for example, we have text box controls and text area controls, and then we also have an ink control. So I'll go here and put an ink control in, and so there's our ink control. And if I go over to working preview right now, I see nothing really because we've done nothing to configure the ink control. So I'm going to go now to the ink control properties, which opens up a builder, and you can see there's a whole slew of properties that you can set. But to get started really quickly, I'm going to just go here and say set default class name. So this has just filled in a whole bunch of default class names for me, and then I'm going to go here and I'm going to also turn on the default for the ink overlay. So you can see there we've got the ink editor, and right now overlay is turned off. I'm going to go here and click this button, which has basically turned on the overlay and filled in a whole bunch of HTML over here, which we'll explain in a minute. And then I'm going to go to CSS and use default CSS. So this is the CSS that defines all of the different pieces of the ink control. So now when I go over to working preview, I actually see something here. So basically here's my ink control. I can draw over there, I can move my viewport and around on the screen, go back there, and the look and appearance of all of these different aspects of the ink control are governed by settings in the builder. So for example, this drop down here, which lets me choose a pen, was defined inside the ink overlay over here, and this is the HTML for that ink overlay. And then if I go here to to items, here's the code that got generated for me automatically to open up the pen tool. And for example, here's the this is how we toggle from full screen into just half screen. So you can see if we go now into the ink editor and I tap this button here, we're now in full screen mode. If I tap back, I'm back to basically the viewport and the ink editor itself. So the ink editor can be very easily added to the component, and also you can see that we can quickly set default properties, which we can then go later on and tweak. So I can go and tweak the appearance of any of these different aspects of the ink control here by changing the CSS, but I'm going to just stick with the defaults right now. So as mentioned earlier, the ink control is just like any other data control. That means that the ink control has a standard get value and set value property. So what I'm going to do now is put a button in. So let's go here and put in a button, and this button is going to basically say get value, and I'm going to read the value out of the ink control in the same way that I would read the value out of any other type of control. And then after I read the value, I'm going to write the value into a div on the screen. So I'm going to go there and add some static text, and in the static text I'll put div id equals div1 and then a closing div. So that's just a div with an ID of div1 where I can write some value. So let's go here and say click, and then go to text mode and say var val equals dialog.object.get value. So this is the standard get value command that I would write for any control, and I'm going to read the value out of the ink control, and then go here and say var le equals $div1, and then le dot inner HTML equals val. So let's go ahead now, save this, and now test it out. But I'm going to pause and pick this up in the next video. So we're continuing now with our introduction to the ink control, and let's go ahead now and test out our get value button. So run the component, and then there's our ink control. And now when I say get value, you can see I see nothing over here, and the reason that I see nothing is that by default the ink control doesn't commit its value automatically. So if I go here to the if I go back to the ink control, you can see that by default this auto commit property is turned off. So I'm going to show you a little later how you can manually commit the data, but I'm going to just go here and turn auto commit on, and then go back now to working preview, and then scribble on the ink control, and now say get value. And now you can see when I do a get value, we read the value from the ink control, and so the value in the ink control is just text, but it's text that's only really meaningful to Alpha Anywhere. So this is the format of the ink that is stored in the ink control, and it's just text, so that means it can be easily stored in a database. And so if I go now and make some more edits there, change my pen color, and then say get value, you can see that the value now has changed. So what we've shown over here is that the ink control is just a fancy type of editor. It's just like a text box is an editor where you can type values in and get back a value. The ink control is similar. You can basically use the ink control to draw, and then use get value to get the value out of the control. So now if I go back here and go back to this ink control and turn off the auto commit property, then I'm going to need to add another button over here. So let's go, well actually I can add all the code into the get value here. So let's go back into the get value, and so now before we do the get value, let's do a manual commit of the value. So I'll go here and say var iobj equals dialog.object.get control. So now I'm getting a pointer to the ink control, and now I can say iobj.commit to commit whatever is in the ink editor back to the control itself. So now when I go into working preview here, I can draw, and now when I say get value, you can see I get the value, because before we try to read the value, we commit the ink editor back. So just as I can do a get value property, get value method to read the value in an ink control, I can similarly do a set value where I set the value of the ink control to some text value. And that's very important, because that's how we can display ink in an existing record in a database. So what we've shown in this quick introductory video is how ink is just like any other data-bound control. It has a get value method and a set value method, and we've shown how you can quickly configure the ink control using these using the builder over here to control all aspects of the appearance. But you can get started really quickly by using the default CSS class names, turn on the overlay, and also control the CSS. Now the overlay just is the stuff that lets you choose the pen colors and the eraser, etc. So if I turn off has overlay right now, and then I run the component, you can see that I have my navigator window in the top, and then in the bottom I just have the actual ink editor itself, but I don't have all the decoration which lets me undo, redo, set pen colors, etc. But you do have complete control over what shows up in those overlays. So basically you can see here, if I go back here and I turn the ink editor overlay back on, and then go into the overlay here, you can see this is the HTML that defines that overlay, so I can control what appears in the overlay itself. So this has been a really brief overview of the ink control. It's an extremely powerful control, and we've only barely scratched the surface, but I have shown you how to get started with the control, and I have shown you how it's just like any other data-bound control, in that it's used to set, it has set value and get value methods. Thanks very much for watching.